Hello, I'm Alexandra Henderson. This is number 0879, the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, and it comes to you right now.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Now, it's time for an eclectic mix of interviews and some of the oddest news stories you'll ever hear. It's the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Hey there, hi there, ho there! Peter Anthony Holder here with you, and yes, this is indeed another edition of the Stuff File program, number 0879. And coming up on this edition of the Stuff File program, you'll meet Jason Klamm, who is the author of Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero. His book is written for fans of the movie, but what if someone hasn't seen it yet?
I would say if you haven't seen this movie, I am finding out recently that there are people much younger than I would have anticipated that have either found it on their own or been shown it by their parents and still turn out to love this movie. Not all movies have that. There are a lot of movies from this era that I grew up loving that just don't resonate the same way with some people. They don't seem as funny. They just, frankly, are just a product of their time. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was made to be timeless on purpose, and I think if you've not seen it, if you'd like to read about how a timeless classic is put together, then this is a good book for you.
Russell Van Brocklen, the dyslexic professor, is back on the program. Among other things, he talks about dyslexia and AI, and he brings up the book entitled The Craft of Research.
What you need to understand is anybody wants to work as a knowledge worker, the most important thing is what does good look like and how do I fix it when it's not good? And then AI goes and actually now literally does the work and you're more of an editor and we're moving up that value chain. So if you know the craft of research, context, problem statement, original solution, and you don't know a darn thing about AI, you can then go and be very successful with AI. The book came out in 1995, sold over 1 million copies. It tells you how to do your doctoral dissertation. And I literally teach students those first 2 steps.
Stuart Nulman is in with another edition of Book Banter.
Hi, I'm Stuart Nulman, and Book Banter welcomes the summer of 2026 with 4 titles, past and present, that should be part of your summer reading list. Pack up your beach bag or tote bag for a summer between the covers on the Stuff File program.
And there's lots and lots of Stuff File news, dad joke theater, Sir Dudley's Poetry Corner, a morning shower thought, and of course, an idiot of the day. The guest slater, the person who told you that this was show number 0879, was Alexandra Henderson, who is the VP of News Local Stations at Global News. She is one of the best people that I've ever worked with and for. She is just a marvelous, marvelous human being. Thank you very much, Alex, for doing the guest slate on this edition of the Stuff File program, a show that is listener-supported, fan-funded radio that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Well, let's get right to the stuff. An Arizona woman was arrested June 9th after Highway Patrol clocked her driving 108 miles per hour on State Route 347 in Pinell County, far exceeding the 65 mile per hour speed limit. According to officials, the driver stated that she was trying to get home fast enough to be able to watch the reality TV show Love Island.
Welcome to Love Island, USA!
Thank you, announcer Ian Sterling. Authorities charged her with criminal speed and reckless driving while her vehicle was impounded for 20 days in what patrol officers called car jail. So I guess she can say in 20 days.
We're back, baby!
The dating competition show streams 6 nights weekly at 9 p.m. Eastern on Peacock, which means that this Arizona woman could have simply driven the speed limit and watched Love Island on demand. I mean, what was she thinking? Any idea, Ian?
You Americans are crazy.
He said that, not me. Emergency responders successfully extracted a woman from a garbage chute following a 10-floor descent at a Hackensack, New Jersey apartment complex. The Hackensack Fire Department responded June 7th after receiving reports that a woman had entered the building's trash chute from the 14th floor. Fire, police, and EMS teams collaborated on the rescue. Crews located the victim trapped between the third and fourth floors, surrounded by accumulated debris. Responders employed saws to remove chute panels while preparing rope rescue and wall breach procedures as alternatives. Firefighters cleared sufficient refuge to extract the woman feet first after 28 minutes. The cause of the incident remains undetermined. Please don't tell me that it ends up that she lost her phone down the chute, because in the 16 years of this show, too many people have followed their lost phone into chaos. A 59-year-old Florida woman was arrested for repeatedly stealing banana chips from a Publix supermarket near her Vero Beach home. Annette Nichols allegedly took $6.49 bags of banana chips on 6 separate occasions over several weeks, totaling about $300 in stolen merchandise.
Bet you can't eat just one. Nobody can do that.
Publix deli manager Lorenzo Altamura reported the thefts to police, noting that he had to limit banana chip stock due to ongoing theft. According to an Indian River County Sheriff's deputy, Annette continues to take all the bags she can. When confronted, Nichols confessed and said that she didn't know why she steals something so stupid, adding, "It's not worth going to jail over and losing her job." Police found 13 bags of banana chips in her car, some stolen from 2 different Publix locations. Nichols, who works as an accountant, was charged with theft and released on a $150 bond. You know, that banana chip company should bail her out and hire her as a commercial spokesperson. Yeah. And finally, in this section of Stuff File News, before we get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder, real estate agent Christopher White from Century 21 discovered a property overrun by serpents during a scheduled home showing in central Arkansas. White initially conducted his routine inspection, but noticed the issue after returning to his vehicle to review property details. He filmed numerous snakes near the entrance, hanging from roof eaves and occupying an old electrical panel. White immediately informed potential buyers he would not proceed with the tour. The reptiles were later identified as black rat snakes, a non-venomous species that farmers appreciate for controlling rodent populations like mice and rats. So, I guess if you're doing real estate agent spin, this house is perfect because it doesn't have mice or rats.
Making homes affordable made us number one.
And let's get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program. Jason Klamm is a comedian and an award-winning writer, filmmaker, and actor. He has directed 3 feature films, written 8 books, and his latest book, just out, is called Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero. Jason joins us from Detroit via Riverside.com. Hi, Jason.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being on the program with us. Now, I found you, and we'll get to your book in just a matter of moments, but I found you because I was reading an article in the American Bystander, which was written by you. It's called Presenting Dick Davey. It was a great article. It was about an unknown comedian. And so tell us how you came to finding out about Dick Davey, and I believe you're also producing an album of his.
Yes, yeah, that came out last September. I used to do a podcast called Comedy on Vinyl, which is the name of my hopefully recurring column in the American Bystander as well. I am a longtime collector and lover of vinyl comedy, and I've been a comedian most of my life. And vinyl comedy just turns out like hit a nerve with a lot of people roughly my age and who kind of all look exactly like me, which brings me to Cliff Nesteroff, who is the Canadian doppelganger of myself. More successful Canadian doppelganger. Let me just keep adding caveats to that. He introduced me to Dick Davey because, long story short, He thought he was an interesting guy, had some material that aged pretty well, especially considering he was dealing with race humor, and he was just doing it very deftly. But he couldn't find any information out about him. And Cliff is a master of finding those things. Like, the dude is interviewed like everybody and their sister, and he knows what he's doing. And so I took that as a sort of personal challenge. I didn't tell him I was going to do this. I'm like, I'm going to try and find Dick Davey. I took a couple weeks, failed miserably, didn't find him. And then a few years later, for a long, drawn-out bunch of reasons, I needed a mystery that I could solve. And I decided to dig back into this Dick Davey thing. And within about a month and a half, 2 months, I ended up finding what his real name was. I spoke to his brother on the phone. I met his niece. And it wasn't long after that we discovered some long-lost acetates, and those are what make up half of Presenting Dick Davey, the record that came out last September.
And we should mention that Dick Davey has long been dead.
Yeah, he died, I think, around 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So what was the interest that you had in his particular comedy? And I think one of the most interesting things is the fact that he created an entire persona, an ethnic persona different than his. How did he go about doing that? And what was your fascination with him?
Yeah, I mean, my fascination starts with, I have always loved humor that has a social aspect to it. If you've ever met anybody who loves Blazing Saddles for the wrong reasons, I'm the guy who gets in arguments with those people. I love Blazing Saddles because it has a social point to it. It is making a pretty obvious point, a pretty simple one: racism bad. Pretty really easy, simple thing to understand. And I liked that Dick Davey was doing it in a way that, like, it might seem naive, but the character's naive. The character is naive about how race works. He doesn't understand the basic 1-2 of, well, we look different. Why do we got to hate each other? And again, it's perfect for a time where hippies were becoming a thing. It was it was kind of, I don't know, it was designed for that period. And his character, which nobody was sure if it was a character or not, was this kind of hillbilly, for lack of a better word, and a Southern hillbilly. There's hillbillies from everywhere, and he happened to be Southern, from Arkansas, Evening Shade, Arkansas. Maybe the same from the show, maybe not, because there's 2 Evening Shades in Arkansas. And I thought, I don't know, I liked the character aspect of it, what I assumed was a character. And then eventually, once I dug in, it became clear, yeah, he was the son of a Manhattan rabbi. He was a cantor in his temple, and that's what got him started performing as well. Just a fascinating dude, but nobody knew who he was for a number of reasons. I think he didn't want people to know eventually, because he kept that Southern accent off stage with some people. So some people had no clue that he was just this New York kid. And which I think is pretty fascinating.
And as you said, you produced an album, and how can one get that album?
It is produced, it is manufactured and distributed by the delightful Stand Up Records. If you go to standuprecords.com, that is where you can get it on vinyl. It is the first vinyl record I've ever produced. Not the first vinyl record I've ever made happen, but it is the first one I've officially produced, and it's got 6,500 words of liner notes. So what you read in The American Bystander was a very truncated version of what's in those liner notes. And those liner notes are also very beautifully laid out by a guy named Ian Rands, who is a talent.
Okay, so let's get to your book. Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he your hero?
Well, it's just a line from the movie, and I figured that would attract people. I wouldn't say Ferris Bueller's my hero. It's a movie that I absolutely adore and love, and nobody had done a deep dive on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, for one, or any Hughes project. People have written books about Hughes movies in general, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But frankly, the fact that I was picking one John Hughes movie and picked this one is the reason a lot of people agreed to speak with me, including his son James, who would not have signed on if it was just a generic, let's talk about the movies of John Hughes kind of thing.
At what age did you see Ferris Bueller?
I probably was 10 when I first saw it. It came out when I was 6, but I lived in Germany at the time. And then when we moved here, around 87, 88, I had to play a lot of pop culture catch up. I had to see Ghostbusters for the first time. I had to see Back to the Future, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, just a ton of movies. And that sort of quick infusion of that into my bloodstream made them very memorable, made me sort of at least assume that these are very important things you absolutely have to know, otherwise you can't get along with people. And whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it certainly helped me become obsessed with them. And it's one of the movies I memorized as a kid as well. And then later, once I moved to LA, I spent the last 10 or so years in LA doing a stage show called The Drinking Game. And those were stage readings of 80s and 90s movies. And Ferris Bueller's one we did several times.
The reason why I asked what your age was when you first saw it is, did you find it as a 10-year-old breaking out into teenagehood that it was somewhat empowering to you?
I think it was just the idea of getting away from school, because I was really good in school until I got to the U.S. and I was doing just fine, and then I got picked on enough that I started to absolutely hate school. So the idea of an escape from school seemed really wonderful to me, and I would often stay home pretending to be sick just to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That happened numerous times.
You mentioned that James Hughes, John Hughes' son, was featured in your book. How many people from that particular film did you get in contact with?
Well, I interviewed 125 people for the book total, and I would say around 90 to 100 of them were either involved directly with the making of the film or sort of tertiarily related, in like James was, of course, just being John Hughes' son. So yeah, about a significant portion of them were around 100, I would say, probably directly involved in the making of the movie.
And any of the stars?
Yeah, Matthew Broderick and Alan Ruck both spoke with me. I also spoke with stars of other John Hughes movies like Andrew McCarthy and John Cryer. What was fun about talking with John Cryer is he had no idea he was the first name bandied about to possibly play Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He thought he was only up to play Alan Ruck's character. He had no clue that they were considering him for Ferris Bueller.
Well, it just seems to be that he's following around the main actor in that film, and that is Matthew Broderick, because he's played his understudy in Broadway.
Yeah, so many times. And he's actually what would have been Matthew Broderick's first film fell through, I think, because the director was ill. And then that movie got picked up again with a new director and a new cast. And that cast included John Cryer in Matthew Broderick's part when it finally got produced.
When you talk to a lot of the actors, and you weren't necessarily talking to just the actors in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but you spoke to other actors within the John Hughes realm, was there a commonality amongst those actors that you kind of got an aha moment as to why John Hughes picked them?
No, it's never clear, because I think the way he writes his characters is very specifically, they're never based on one person. I want to be very careful about that. I'm very careful about it in the book. They're never based on a person, but they are based on an idea from his childhood. And it could just be like one simple concept, one of his friends, kind of, bits and pieces. So they were all very much just exactly who he wanted, because he was heavily involved in the casting of these people. They just had to be believably teenage. The big difference with Ferris Bueller's Day Off is he was shooting for older than teenage to play specifically Ferris, Sloane, and Cameron. He wanted them to have the emotional sophistication and the ability to act so that they wouldn't necessarily be hampered by being an actual teen. They just had to be able to access that. The hilarious part of that being Matthew Broderick, perfect for that. He's around 22 at the time. He did not know when he auditioned Mia Sara that she was still 18. So she's 18 in the movie. He might have auditioned her when she was 17, but she's a teen. He didn't believe it. So he's like, well, I guess I was wrong, went with her. And then Alan Ruck famously was 29, playing a 17 or 18-year-old kid. And he's the most believable teenager in it. He's so good. He just looks like a tall, gawky kid, but he's literally a year older than my mom. So it's kind of mind-blowing.
So give me the elevator pitch on your book from two perspectives. One, for people who have seen Ferris Bueller, and more importantly, two, for people who haven't seen Ferris Bueller.
Well, if you have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off and you want to know every nook and cranny of how and why this movie was put together, this is the book for you, because this is an absolute deep dive. It's 124,000 words. There's more to come if we get a paperback, because I had to cut 12,000 words out just to make it fit into the hardcover. And I've already interviewed some more people for it. So if you really like deep dives and you want to read the first deep dive on a John Hughes movie, Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero is it. I would say if you haven't seen this movie, I am finding out recently that there are people much younger than I would have anticipated that have either found it on their own or been shown it by their parents and still turn out to love this movie. Not all movies have that. There are a lot of movies from this era that I grew up loving that just don't resonate the same way with some people. They don't seem as funny. They just, frankly, are just a product of their time. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was made to be timeless on purpose. And I think if you've not seen it, if you want to see, if you'd like to read about how a timeless classic is put together, then this is a good book for you, because it also talks about the filmic inspiration for it. It talks about the writing process in detail, the directing process in detail, and the production and post-production process in detail as well. I speak with a little bit of everybody from every single step of the way. So it's kind of a good primer on how to make a movie, how to make a good comedy, and it's an argument for why comedy films are art.
Jason, thank you very much for taking the time to be on the program with us. And one more question, just from a personal point of view. When are you going to be in The American Bystander again?
Hopefully in the next issue. I have written something up for them. So, and it's basically kind of a top 5, or it might be actually end up being a top 10 best albums to get into vinyl comedy collecting, or at least vinyl comedy listening. So that's what I'm hoping in the next issue.
Jason, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Jason Klamm, author of Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero. You can go to our website at thestufffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0879, and you'll find links to Jason's website, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order his book directly. By the way, on his website, you can also order the comedy album that he produced called Presenting Dick Davy, which is on mint green vinyl. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
And now, Dad Joke Theater.
What do you call a fake noodle? An imposter!
Join us again for another Stuff File program. Dad Joke Theater.
There's still more guests, more news, and an idiot of the day coming your way on the Stuff File program. Stay tuned. The Stuff File program is a listener-supported, fan-funded radio show that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Sign up and find out about our rewards program. Being a patron doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. There's absolutely no obligation. You could join today and end whenever you'd like. But the time we have your support would be so greatly appreciated. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about the show and even your ideas for rewards. Join us for the ride. Join us at patreon.com/thestufffile program.
I'm standing proudly for Canada. Hi, this is Arlene Dickinson. I am so proud that Canadians are standing together. We're using our voices, and we're supporting Canadian businesses and Canadian workers for this great country that we all love so much. Look for Canadian labels to help keep food on Canadian tables. Shop as if your country depends on it. Keep your money in Canada, for Canada.
You're experiencing the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. Sit back, relax, let it rattle around between your ears, tickling your cerebellum, and enjoy.
And still to come in the program, we'll talk to the dyslexia professor, plus Stuart Nulman is along with another edition of Book Banter. We also have a Sir Dudley Poetry Corner, a morning shower thought, and of course an idiot of the day, and much more in Stuff File news right here, right now. Scottish soccer supporters attending FIFA World Cup matches have created unprecedented beer shortages across Boston establishments. Sam Adams' Boston taproom sold 4 times its normal weekend amount of Samuel Adams' Boston Lager from Thursday through Sunday, forcing an emergency Saturday delivery after running completely dry. Hennessy's bar, operating for over 30 years, sold out entirely on Sunday. Chief Operating Officer Noel Summers said they tripled St. Patrick's Day sales and never seen anything like it. The White Bull Tavern exhausted all beer supplies, particularly Tennant's Lager, which is Scotland's most popular brew. Okay, I've witnessed firsthand Bostonians can drink a lot, but I think they've met their match with the Scots. Meanwhile, elsewhere in FIFA World, European tourists attending the 2026 FIFA World Cup have discovered the joys of American ranch dressing, with many wanting to transport bottles back to their countries. However, TSA regulations limit carry-on liquids to 3.4-ounce containers, prompting the agency's Instagram post reminder suggesting checked baggage instead, writing, "Please avoid chugging your ranch outside security. The airlines will check it for you." Swedish influencer Elsa called ranch like crack and urged, in all capitals by the way, "Europe, we need ranch ASAP." German visitor Freddie gained viral attention reviewing American restaurants including Taco Bell and Waffle House. The TSA joked about diplomacy. Get it? Yeah. Anyway, while explaining ranch's popularity with pizza, wings, fries, and vegetables.
Original Ranch from Hidden Valley, where freshness is a way of life.
Full disclosure, I hate ranch dressing.
The Stuff File program presents asinine situations that make you want to scream into a pillow.
At around 8:30 a.m., police in Cape Coral, Florida, responded to a report of a man wearing women's clothing, including leggings and a tank top, and carrying a small woman's backpack. He was attempting to break into an RV while the family that lived there was inside. Officers arrived and found 34-year-old Devin Turner outside. Body camera footage showed Turner talking with the officers and explaining his reason for trying to get inside. He was on his way to court related to burglary charges against him and needed clothes for his appearance. He was arrested, charged with burglary and possession of methamphetamine that was allegedly found in his small woman's backpack, which helps explain the rest of his decisions that day. Don't you just hate it when you look into your closet and you can't find that special something for a specific occasion?
This has been the Stuff File program, asinine situations that make you want to scream into a pillow.
And now, this.
The Stuff File presents Sir Dudley Piddly Havisham Sedgwick Smythe's Poetry Corner.
Said an envious, erudite ermine, "There's one thing I cannot determine. When a girl wears my coat, she's a person of note. When I wear it, I'm called only vermin."
And let's get to our next guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program, shall we? Back in September, we had Russell Van Brocklen on. He's the dyslexia professor. He's been busy with various projects, so I thought we'd have him back on the show to catch up. Russell joins us once again from New York via Riverside.com. Hi, Russell.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being back on the program. So what has taken place since September when we last had you on and now? I know that you sent me some emails and you said that some things are a little bit different because there was research involved, and now I guess it's a practicality. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so we had a few major things. First, we're almost done with my first book, Famous Last Words of any author. It's with my co-author and with my editor. It's a book called If You Write, You Can Read, and in my part, it's about the student's name is the student's name is Reed. His mother's Kimberly. She has some college, a very religious homeschooling mom. And Reed was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile. And in 8 months, in an hour and a half a week, she literally took Reed up because when he wanted to go to public school to be with his friends. His reading jumped from the 11th percentile to the 64th. His writing went from the 4th percentile to the 65th. And now he's been in class for almost an entire year now, and he's getting mainly A's and B's in a gen ed class. His mom solved this in under 9 months.
So again, what has been happening since we last spoke to you? And I know that this is your major push, and that it's something that you want to do and see with all people who are suffering from dyslexia. But I'm sure you've had some setbacks along the way. Are you progressing as much as you'd like to?
We are progressing, and yeah, the setback we had is it just took so much longer than we thought. So what we're trying to do is to get this, what I did with Kimberly. The problem is, I'm one person. I can't work with everybody I want to one-on-one. So finally we got it up. It's a program on a learning platform called School, SKOOL.com. And what we've set up is exactly what we did with Kimberly. And we train parents to teach their kids for $147 a month. My competition is normally around 500 all the way up to 75,000 a year. And the $147 a month is what we found works. And in order to do that, the other thing that I had to do is I had to find a qualified instructor. Her name is Angela. I'm sorry. Her name is Angela. She's a certified elementary school teacher in the state of Texas with a master's degree and 11 years of experience in a school district. And she's taught this. Now she's a homeschooling mom, and she's teaching not only her dyslexic kids, but her gen ed kids this process as well. We've had major breakthroughs in that area.
Are there enough teachers who are qualified in teaching dyslexic children?
See, that's the thing about qualified. The problem is they're using techniques that haven't changed much since the 1950s. And the results outside of a $75,000 a year private school are dreadfully horrible. In New York State, we spend 32,000 per kid plus about another 20,000 per dyslexic kid, 52 all in, and we're getting a passage rate on our English language art exams, third through eighth grade, of around 10%, plus or minus a couple of points, where the overall average passing rate is 50 plus percent. So it's not the teachers being certified. It's just they're using techniques that are wildly inefficient.
And why are those techniques wildly inefficient? Because, you said that it goes back to the 1950s, and let's be honest, the general population didn't even know the word dyslexia in the 1950s or 60s or even early 70s. It was only later that you were hearing about this. So why haven't the techniques caught up with the social benefits of it being out there more and more?
Well, actually, the Gowell School represented the first school that deals with dyslexia, and this year it's celebrating its 100th anniversary. The program that most rich people use is called an Orton-Gillingham approach. Dr. Orton is the pioneer of my field. He passed away in 48. His partner Gillingham passed away in the 50s. And it has made some improvements, but not that much as you would think. It's just the reason why it's so expensive is 2 years to become certified past a bachelor's degree, and the student to teacher ratio is like 4 to 1 to 5 to 1. And if you're a private parent hiring one of these certified Orton tutors, they're 150, $200 a session, multiple sessions a week. And when the kids in a master's program start, they're still with them. It's just that's the way it is. So when there's a book that came out called Overcoming Dyslexia in 2003 by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale, she's a medical doctor. She showed that the back part of the dyslexic brain has nothing going on. The front part's 2.5 times overactive. Word analysis followed by articulation. That's what I use. Nobody else does that. So I literally can train parents with very little college education. Kimberly literally solved this in like less than 9 months, where the private schools take 4 to 5 years at $75K a year.
You mentioned that you can train the parents to teach their kids even without a college degree. Do you have a stumbling block to get over the parents? I guess the possibilities of them teaching their children because they don't think that they can do that?
Well, the stumbling block is parents don't believe that it's so much better, faster, cheaper in orders of magnitude. They can't understand how I actually have Angela there each week answering their questions for an hour and how we can do it for 147 a month. It's like somebody coming to you saying, trade in that junker you have with 200,000 miles and 15 years old, and here's a new Ferrari. That's literally what they're finding hard to believe. So what I've done is we met on Podmatch. I've been the number one guest for months. I'm currently number 2 on the whole system. I've done over 300 podcasts and like 270 plus 5-star reviews. And I'm using this to try to spread the word, but it's a lot.
You mentioned that in New York State you have some decent numbers when it comes to the government being involved in dyslexia. What about the rest of the United States, and how can you spread that into the rest of the United States or Canada for that matter?
Well, I honestly, I've been going on. There's some days where I'm just doing 2 or 3 podcasts a day to try to spread the message. The issue that we've run into is it's just extremely hard to get into the school districts, and parents are finding it's really difficult to believe that it can be this effective. And one quick thing that we've discovered is over since we last met, the head of Google AI said the biggest problem they have is coming up with a problem statement, a question that if you answer it properly is going to make a major advancement. Just how do you come up with that? There's a book out there called The Craft of Research that tells you exactly how to do it, but advanced students finding that extremely difficult. So currently I'm working with a student. I'm going to want you to guess his age. His name is Grayson. He's not dyslexic in the least. He's in the 99th percentile for math and for science. He wants to get his PhD, work for NASA to terraform Mars, and we're training his father to starting off with advanced body paragraphs all the way through coming up with a proper problem statement, and then we'll turn him over to a senior professor so he can write his article and get published. How old do you think Grayson is?
12?
He's 10.
Wow.
We create custom material. I create custom material for Grayson. He reads at the 12th grade level. The content is third year college. And currently that's on terraforming Mars. And he's interested in the Japanese side of World War II, specifically why Japan decided to pick a fight with the United States. So everything I create is customized for him. And we show dyslexic parents how to do that. But if they ask, how far do we go? We literally go to a proper problem statement. Then we turn the kid over to a professor who is very happy to get them, and then they work with them for the rest of the way. That's assuming they want to get a doctorate and publish, or we can do it on lesser things. But we push this farther than anybody in the K through 12 marketplace, and it works brilliantly with Gen Ed kids as well. That was a shocking idea.
You mentioned AI. How can AI help with someone that is dyslexic, or can it?
First thing is I don't let my kids use AI until they can do advanced body paragraphs, advanced essays, because you need to know what good looks like. What you need to understand is anybody wants to work in as a knowledge worker, the most important thing is what does good look like and how do I fix it when it's not good? And then AI goes and actually now literally does the work and you're more of an editor and we're moving up that value chain. So if you know the craft of research, context, problem statement, original solution, and you don't know a darn thing about AI, you can then go and be very successful with AI. The book came out in 1995, sold over 1 million copies. It tells you how to do your doctoral dissertation. And I literally teach students those first 2 steps.
And again, you say you're doing a book right now. When is it coming out, and what is the title of it once again?
It's if you write, you can read. We're hoping for August. Famous last words from any author. My editor and my co-author has taken control of it, and her name is Evelyn Whitebay. She was on the New York State Dyslexia Task Force. New York State spent an entire year trying to figure out how to change dyslexia K through 5, and what they came up with is so expensive, even we can't afford it. And Evelyn and I can go into a school district, train the teachers on what really needs to happen for reading and writing, and we can do that within 6 hours.
Russell, thank you once again for being on the program with us.
Thanks for having me.
Russell Van Brocklen, the dyslexia professor. You can go to our website at thestufffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0879, and you'll find the link to Russell's website. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
Giving you something to think about. This is Morning Shower Thoughts.
If you're waiting for the waiter, aren't you the waiter?
Morning Shower Thoughts from the Stuff File program.
Got something for the mailbag? Drop Peter a line. He'd love to hear from you. Send your email to mailbag@thestuffile.com. And remember, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's mailbag@thestuffile.com. Or catch up with him on Twitter or Facebook. There's more Stuff File coming your way in just a few moments.
Here's a brief word about our show and my book. If you become a regular Patreon patron of the Stuff File program, I'll give you an e-version of my book, Great Conversations, My Interviews with Two Men on the Moon and a Galaxy of Stars. It's easy to do. Just go to patreon.com and become a patron to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. So, join Patreon and claim your copy of Great Conversations, My Interviews with Two Men on the Moon and a Galaxy of Stars. Sign up at patreon.com/The Stuff File program.
Coming to you from Canada, a place where fighting is frowned upon, unless it's on an ice rink. This is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's time to crack a spine. The Stuff File presents Book Banter with Stuart Nulman. Once again, here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And Stuart, we're quickly coming up to those lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer.
Yes, summertime, summertime. You got it, Peter.
What did I tell you about singing in the past?
I couldn't help it. It could have been worse. I could have sang Summertime in the Living's Easy or Nat King Cole's Lazy, Hazy, Crazy Days of Summer. But one word, just repeat a few times and, short and sweet to the point.
Okay. So what do we have this week on Book Banter?
Well, I decided to do a little bit of a summer preview. You know, books you could take with you to the beach, to the balcony, maybe to the family picnic, or when you're doing a little summer vacation. Topics or the type of books you read are more lighthearted, more entertaining, and usually in paperback. So what I decided to do is take 4 books, 2 old, 2 recent, and these are going to be my summer picks for you, the loyal audience, who needed some good suggestions.
Okay, but before we get to that, you said one of the places that people can read is at the family picnic. If you're reading at the family picnic, aren't you by definition antisocial?
Well, maybe after you've eaten and you want to relax and let the food digest a little bit, you just find a shady tree and just read for a few minutes. That way, you're not antisocial, and you won't have any threat of potato salad landing on the page you're reading at that time.
I still question bringing a book to a family picnic. But anyway, what's the first book on your list of the 4 that you want for summer reading?
Well, mysteries are always a good summer read. Over the past couple of years, I've been discovering some famous mystery writers. Last summer was Agatha Christie, and this year I decided to discover Nero Wolfe, the character by the late Rex Stout. During his lifetime, between 1934 and his death in 1975, Rex Stout wrote 33 novels dealing with Nero Wolfe, who was called the Grand Master of Detection, and his faithful sidekick Archie Goodwin. So basically, it was like Nero Wolfe did the brain work, and Archie did the legwork to solve mysteries. So I found, believe it or not, at a thrift store, I found a whole collection of Nero Wolfe paperbacks. And the one I chose was a book called A Right to Die. It was published in 1964. The team of Nero and Archie try to solve the murder of a young woman, and while they're trying to solve this murder, they somehow get unwillingly and accidentally thrust into the heart of the civil rights movement. Because, look, the book was published in 1964. So it's a great battle of wits. And I like the chemistry between Nero and Archie. I mean, like I said, Nero is a bon vivant and gourmand, and Archie is a good old-fashioned detective. So it's really enjoyable. I actually picked up a couple of more Nero Wolf paperbacks at the same thrift store that I found this one. So if you're interested, it's called A Right to Die by Rex Stout, and it was originally published in 1964. And you can get it in paperback. You just got to go to your favorite secondhand or thrift store and find some copies.
I love me some Nero Wolf. I used to read it as a teenager, and that's where I learned all about orchids.
And also was a TV series with the late William Conrad.
Yes, absolutely. So that's your first book for summer reading.
Yeah.
What's your second?
You want to know a secret? Well, not literally, but this is the title of the latest bestseller by Frida McFadden. I find that her books are becoming a summer reading essential because these best-selling chiller thrillers keeps the readers engrossed, especially with the McFadden's trademark plot twist, which usually happens three-quarters of the way through the story. And this book, Want to Know a Secret, is no exception. It focuses on April Masterson. She lives in a New York City suburb, and she's a content creator who is very popular with her YouTube series, April's Sweet Secrets. And it's more or less a cooking show and a baking show, too. But after one of her broadcasts, she gets a text message on her phone that says, Want to know a secret? And that starts a chain of text that is more or less a gaslighting campaign that makes April a pariah within not only her YouTube community, but the community where she lives in that New York suburb. As a result of that, her life falls apart. I didn't get to that plot twist yet. I'm at that point, but I'm sure I'm in for some nice surprises. And she has a new book that just came out called The Divorce. You know, if you want, start with this book called One No Secret. It's by Frida McFadden. It's published by Poison Pen Press, and it's $26.99.
Book number 3.
Well, book number 3, it's another new book. Summer means baseball books. And especially if you missed the Montreal Expos, Danny Gallagher, who's a veteran sports writer, he's written 7 books about the team. And his 8th book has just come out. It's a collection of stories of past players, and which is like his other books were. And it's called The Tragic Story of Willie Davis. Now, the first 5 chapters focuses on Davis, who was, believe it or not, played for the Expos for one season and in 1974 and became its player of the year for that season. He was a solid player with the Dodgers and the Expos, but had a lot of baggage and issues that put a damper on what could have been a Hall of Fame career. But Gallagher also provides a spotlight on lesser-known players. Like these are like the unsung heroes of the team. One that caught my eye in particular was Charlie O'Brien, who was a catcher back in the early 2000s. But his contribution to the game was he developed the next generation of catcher's masks. He introduced a design that integrated with the goalie mask, and which is now more or less the standard type of equipment that catchers wear these days. So it's called The Tragic Story of Willie Davis by Danny Gallagher. It's published by Dundurn Press, and it's $25.99.
And the final book for Balconville.
Well, Harold Robbins, back in the 60s and 70s, he was a very popular writer. His books, which were like Roman à Clés, were bestsellers. He was one of the most popular authors of the 60s and 70s with books like 79 Park Avenue, The Adventurers, The Betsy, and A Stone for Danny Fisher, which was the basis for Elvis Presley's book King Creole. But I want to focus on The Carpetbaggers. This was one of Robbins' most popular books, and it was published in 1961. And it tells the tales of an ambitious son of a wealthy Texas industrialist, and he wants to go into the movies, which was against Dad's wishes. And he becomes a very popular and very powerful movie executive during the golden age of Hollywood from the 20s to the 1940s. And it has everything you could want in a Harold Robbins book. There's power, there's ambition, there's drama, and yes, there's sex, but compared to some of the books you read now, this was pretty well tame these days, but it was all served on an epic scale. There was a movie version of The Carpetbaggers starring George Peppard and Carol Baker, which was released in 1964. And one of the secondary characters, Nevada Smith, which was actually became a movie, a prequel to The Carpetbaggers that starred Steve McQueen and was released in 1966. And I'm almost finished this subplot about Nevada Smith, and that could have been a book in itself, actually. If Robbins decided to do a Western style type of roman à clef. It's really good, actually. And my dad was a big fan of Harold Robbins. He read practically all of his books during the 60s and 70s. And he must have liked it for some reason. So I decided to take a first read, and I chose The Carpetbaggers. And yeah, this is a good beach read.
Yeah, but you also mentioned The Betsy, which was also turned into a film.
Yeah.
And now I'm having PTSD again, only because I saw that as an usher over and over and over again. And the last thing you want to see when you're a teenage boy is the octogenarian bare ass of Sir Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, his talents were wasted on that movie. He must have been paid pretty damn well, I'll tell you that.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, how can one find you, sir?
Well, not in the world of Harold Robbins or Frida McFadden or Rex Stout. Not in the ballpark, not these days. But you can find me in the pages of the Montreal Times, ntltimes.ca. So you can find me there, or you can find me on my blog, which is stuartnulmansgrapevine.wordpress.com.
Thank you very much, Stu.
You're welcome, Peter, and have a great summer.
Stuart Nulman with another edition of Book Banter here on the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
The Stuff File.
And we're just about out of racetrack for this edition of the Stuff File program. We do have an Idiot of the Day, but I've got a couple more Stuff File news stories to share with you right here, right now. According to a Forbes report, Silicon Valley sex workers are charging up to $6,000 per hour by specializing in technology discussions. These nerd-first escorts offer fluent conversations about AI, cryptocurrency, and other tech topics alongside traditional services. Ada Hopper, using a pseudonym, posts about AI on social media to attract clients. She describes encountering NVIDIA bros who are surprised by her GPU knowledge. The escorts serve AI entrepreneurs who have profited from stock and startup growth, but seek authentic human connection beyond dating apps and AI chatbots. One client's overnight session involved minimal physical contact, focusing instead on playful, nice conversation. Charlie Levine, another escort, predicts authentic human connection will become increasingly rare as AI advances. She believes affording genuine human contact will become the ultimate luxury in the future. In the future? At $6,000 per hour, it's practically unaffordable now. A 14-year-old has been charged with armed robbery after targeting a children's lemonade stand in South Boston on June 10th. Police say the suspect and an 11-year-old accomplice, still at large, repeatedly walked past the stand before asking if the kids accept Apple Pay. They then grabbed a cash box containing approximately $50 and displayed a gun before fleeing. 12-year-old David Byrne, who ran the stand with his 11-year-old sister Juliet, said, "You can have it," while his sister raised her hands. Said David, "I was just like a little annoyed," adding, "Kids shouldn't have guns." Yep, out of the mouths of babes. The stand reopened the following day, receiving support from Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and community members, and the whole neighborhood showed up. A portion of the proceeds now goes to a local gun violence prevention group. Meanwhile, the teenage suspect faces juvenile charges, including armed robbery and illegal gun possession. I want to know why that 11-year-old accomplice who at press time is still at large. Doesn't he have a curfew of some kind, or is he a Dickensian street urchin? And now, boys and girls, it's that moment you've all been waiting for. It's time now for the Idiot of the Day.
And now it's time for the strange things adults do. This Stuff File presents the Idiot of the Day.
A man has been arrested after he tried to break into an Oklahoma County jail. Officials say a deputy was on their way into the jail when they noticed a man with a shovel. When asked why he was digging, the man responded that his girlfriend was inside the jail. He later changed his story and said that he was trying to plant a flower. The man, identified as 32-year-old Jake Minavini Blue, was quickly booked into the jail. Once he was booked, detention officers discovered he had a ferro rod which can be used to build fires. The Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office noted with humor that Jake achieved his apparent goal, stating that he has now been reunited with his girlfriend behind the bars of the Oklahoma County Jail. Now, why? Oh, why? In this modern day and age, would you think that you're going to create a jailbreak of your girlfriend with just a shovel and a ferro rod like it's some 19th century Western? One reason, and one reason only. You're an idiot!
Gee, I'm only a kid, but even I know you're an idiot.
And that's it for this edition of the Stuff File program, number 0879. Hope you enjoyed it. The website is thestufffile.com. And once again, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H, where you'll find information and links on all of our guests by going to the weekly Stuff File page. Just look for the corresponding program number. And once again, that's 0879. Email me at peter@thestufffile.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Spoutable, Mastodon, and Blue Sky as PA Holder. Check us out on patreon.com, where you can become a patron of the program. Hope to see you back here for our next show on the air, online, or as a download. We're coming to you from everywhere, including kdxradio.com and over the air on stations like
World FM New Zealand,
WNRHLP-FM Newport Richey, Florida,
KZZHLP-FM Eureka, California,
WFNULP St. Paul, Minnesota,
CKUW-FM Winnipeg,
CFMU Hamilton,
CKLU Sudbury,
Local 107.3 FM St. John,
CHSR Fredericton.
Plus, streaming on any streaming service your little heart desires. That's it. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, a presentation of Flying Fish Communications. Today's broadcast could be heard directly in your home, car, or wireless device, or on your computer, so you can listen on an outpatient basis. For those of you hearing this show directly inside your head, please adjust your medication.